Do you wish there were a product out there that doesn't already exist? Well, just invent it yourself. How innovation and new approaches can lead to business success. That's coming up next on Your Business. Hi there, everyone. I'm JJ Ramberg, and welcome to Your Business, where we give you tips and advice to help your business grow. Today, we're going to see how a little inspiration and a lifetime of experience combine to create an entirely new industry. And we'll meet the entrepreneur riding the wave of its success.
In 1993, I learned a lot. I showed up to the World Championships for freestyle kayaking. My motto was, it's not the boat, it's the motor. I'm like, I can win in any boat. Like, I'm the best kayaker or whatever.
Turns out he couldn't win in just any boat. When Eric Jackson, known as EJ, first saw the strangely shaped kayaks being used by his competition, he feared he'd get walloped.
It's like, I'm about to lose this competition. I can't win in this boat. And for the first time, it just was like, wait a second, it's not, yeah, the motor's important, but you still need a good boat. So these guys might not be as good as me, but they got a better boat, and they're gonna beat me hands down if I don't get a better boat.
It was a tough lesson, and one he didn't want to repeat. Knowing his skills were top-notch, he focused on fixing the design of his boat instead.
I looked around, what do I want to do? And the first thing I did was design a new boat with my design partner, David Knight.
Since that day, he's remained one of America's top contenders.
Mr. Eric Jackson dropping into the hole, a big wing over. This is the current world freestyle kayak champion.
And a bold sporting goods entrepreneur.
You're familiar with all the changes so far that we've made?
Designing and selling the kind of high-tech kayaks necessary for his brand of rodeo kayaking.
They're about half as long as they were 15 years ago. The shapes are dramatically different, and consequently the things we can do in them are so much different than they used to be. And on the customer level, the customer gets our 2008 model. See where your kneecap is. Your kneecap is right here at the apex of this curve, and that's where you want to be. The boat that I designed for me to win the next World Championships also allows the average person to get in and immediately feel like, wow, I'm a better kayaker.
Each year, his Tennessee-based company, Jackson Kayaks, develops new innovations. These allow him and his team to push the performance envelope.
A lot of the local boaters will be seeing tricks they've never seen before. It'll just give them an idea, okay, I'm going to try that and that and that. So this time next year will come around and they'll be doing a lot of the tricks we were doing this year.
According to kayak dealers such as John Kahn of Confluence Kayaks in Denver, Colorado, these modified kayaks have now evolved into an entirely new commercial industry.
There is a whole subset of the sport, a whole industry based on freestyle kayaking that really didn't exist 20 years ago and is now probably one of the driving forces in the kayak industry.
Users actually invented these sports.
Business professor Eric von Hippel of MIT's Sloan School of Management studies product innovation. He and two co-authors wrote a study on so-called user innovators. They say people like Eric Jackson are the most important source of new products in today's market.
This is not unique to rodeo kayaking. It's all sports equipment. Users are heavily involved innovating medical equipment, scientific instruments. It's become a major paradigm.
He says this means entrepreneurs looking for new products should be watching people who use highly specialized equipment. Wi-Fi technology is a good example. It began when one man modified a Pringles potato chip can and ignited an enormous industry.
The guy was an antenna engineer. His apartment overlooked Starbucks, and he created a directed antenna that would allow him to work from Starbucks. Users turn out to be the real inventors of many of the products and services that we use.
Bring that thing in here and let's check it out.
Kahn, himself an extreme athlete, gets how it happened with the kayaks.
People wanted higher performance designs, and so, put pressure on the kayak companies to build those boats that they wanted to see.
As an independent entrepreneur, Jackson approaches business differently from the established sports equipment companies. In his small company, no bureaucracy means quick responses.
Your standard kayak companies have a CEO, a director of sales and marketing, usually a marketing manager, usually a brand manager, a sales manager, sales reps, creative services department. Jackson Kayak has me in one brain, one time, and boom, decision made. The biggest competitive advantages I have is I don't get bad data. I always get great data from the source, from our end user and then from our dealer as well.
Jackson says he's in a unique position to grow his company. He recognizes that not every top kayaker also has the business sense to turn that skill into a successful company like his.
Unfortunately, it's kind of rare that the users are also in a position to be designers and are also intuitive enough and curious enough to want to take it to the next level.
Since EJ owns the company, he can build what he wants to build, and so it's led to quicker innovation and more innovation.
In the end, what really happened is we created an entirely new market, and we revitalized an old market.
In the current business environment, it's more important than ever to innovate. So let's turn to this week's board of directors to talk more about this. Scott Birkin is a former Microsoft executive, a very innovative company, and is currently the author of the book, The Myths of Innovation. Farnoosh Torabi joins us again. She's a correspondent for TheStreet.com and author of the book, You're So Money, Live Rich Even When You're Not. And Jeffrey Carr is the executive director of New York University's Stern Berkeley Center for Entrepreneurial Studies and president of Marketing Foundations Incorporated. He has been self-employed since he was 23 years old and now getting a paycheck from somebody else for the first time. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
So Scott, let's start with you. Innovation can take so many forms, from just making a little tweak to a product to developing something entirely new. How do you figure out if there's a market for your innovation?
You got to go straight to your customers. The smartest thing you can do if you're thinking about innovation, if you have a product already or you're competing with a product that exists, is to go watch people use that product and pay attention to the things that frustrate them and they complain about. That's always where your biggest opportunities are. You start with the problems first. Innovation comes after you've identified what the biggest problems are going to be.
I think, Jeff, one of the dangers that I thought about when watching this piece is there are a lot of people out there who think they have a great idea but maybe don't have a good business sense. What do you do in that case?
I think that's part of the benefit of having teams. I mean, partners. You just really literally cannot easily run a business yourself. To Eric Jackson's comment, he says he's fairly unique, and I think he is, where he really does have the technical experience to do it, but also has the business sense. It is not my experience that most people have that skill set. So you need to be willing to bring in partners who can bring strengths that you don't necessarily have.
And give away part of your company then.
And I think you should be generous, yes.
And as far as finding people to work with, how would you go about finding them?
Well, within your own community, obviously with Eric Jackson's situation, he's already a customer in a lot of ways and he came up with the idea. So his partner was probably someone who he trusted. Think about who you are obviously comfortable being working in a business sense with, but also your friends with, perhaps, because this is going to be a long relationship.
Right. Now, Scott, one of the biggest problems with innovative companies is they create something, it's fantastic, it goes to market, everybody loves it, they grow, and they stop being innovative.
Oh yeah, it's what's called the innovator's dilemma. There's a very well-known book by Clayton Christensen that documents this fact that once a company takes a big risk and they get a lot of value out of that risk, they profit from it, they have a lot of trouble taking the next risk because they've built so much infrastructure around getting as much profit as they can off of the risk they've already benefited from.
So how do you fight against that?
You need someone who's willing to continue to take those risks. Sometimes that means bringing in new blood, sometimes that means changing who's in charge, but in order to keep innovating, it means effectively you got to keep finding ways to make big bets.
It seems hard to do, though, right? I mean, it's easy to say, easier said than done, no?
But I think in Eric Jackson's situation, again, the fact that he is one of the end users, do what you know, whether it's writing a book or starting a business, start where you already feel comfortable and you have the instincts to take those risks and feel comfortable about taking those risks.
Where do you find new ideas? If you are not Eric Jackson, Jeff, and you're an entrepreneur, or you're an entrepreneur in your blood, but you don't have a good idea, should you go hang out at the river and talk to kayakers?
Well, I think part of it is, in coming back to Eric Jackson's story, to me, it's the extreme nature of his use. if you talk to a casual user, you wouldn't get those ideas, you wouldn't get the innovation. So I think if you have an interest, whether it's on the technology side, whether it's on the communication side, the sports side, you go and look at those people that are at the extreme end of it, because they're so pushing the performance level, whatever that is, that it really is where those innovations are required. And back to the point, it's about problem solving. So you really need to focus on that really narrow part up there on the extreme.
Oh, I agree. I think it's more than just the extreme. You can just look at passionate people. There's a long history of participatory design, of innovations coming from customers, and it's usually around people who are very passionate about whatever it is. So this was an example that comes from sports. There's lots of other examples. The invention of mountain bikes, skateboards. There's lots of examples of people who are passionate about what they use, customizing and innovating because they have so much vested interest in trying to make it better. And you can look at the fashion industry too. When I was a kid, we used to rip up our jeans as a fashion statement. And then about 5 or 10 years later, you could go into stores and buy them pre-ripped.
And not only pre-ripped, but for a few $100s for what you did for free. Well, Scott Perkin, I'm unfortunately going to have to stop you there. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
Time now to answer your business questions. First up, Steffi Miller owns a 59% stake in her advertising company, and she's looking to obtain a loan.
Now, in terms of being able to get a loan, I don't have a strong credit history, but my partner does. Is that going to be beneficial in my company qualifying for a small business loan?
How's that going to play out when she goes to the bank?
It can't hurt, but I can't guarantee that she's going to absolutely get the loan if she co-signs with this partner who has excellent grade A credit. The fact that she's still weak in that department, right now, credit is tight, and banks want everyone to have good credit. I've even found that people with excellent credit have a hard time getting a loan. So make sure all your bases are cleared.
You're shaking your head.
No, I agree. This is not a time to be proud here. Ask your mom, ask your dad, rich uncle, everybody should be co-signers, guarantors, anybody you can get, because given, again, the point of tight credit, you just need to do what you can do.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. This comes from the owner of a lighting supply company.
How do I gain trust with larger companies?
We get this question a lot, Jeff. If you're a small company, you don't have connections into the larger company, you don't have a backlog of clients to show them, what do you do?
Well, this is, at the risk of this being an academic response, fundamentally, the only way you gather and can get orders from large companies is to actually and gain their trust is to show that you know their customers. Because any B2B business selling that you're in, industrial selling situation, is always about helping them sell more product to their customers. So the more you can demonstrate that you know their marketplaces, the more you can demonstrate you understand their process, and the more you understand and can demonstrate that you can help them, the better the chances are.
But how do you demonstrate this? In an academic way, by coming in and say, this is who your customer is, this is how I can help you, or do you have to show them something?
Get the media to cover you. I mean, really getting publicity is one way to get the businesses to recognize you without really having to reach out to them directly.
I think the other point is, trust is almost always, at least before the brand is built, it is a personal relationship type thing. So there really is not a substitute here for personal selling. You're going to have to develop the relationships. It is going to take a long time, but you're going to have to be knocking on doors and having the discussions with people and doing the presentations, and again, demonstrating that you do understand their business to start to develop the trust.
We say this a lot here too, which is be persistent. If someone says no to you, don't think that it's going to mean no forever. It just means no for right now.
Right, persevere.
Right. Okay, moving on to emails. This first one comes from Brandon Sondon, and he says, I'm having a little party for my investors to give them an update on my business. Do you think I need to spend a lot of money on catering, etc., to treat them well, or should I make it more casual? This isn't 1998 in the internet days when everyone was hiring big bands to their parties. So how do you judge between trying to make your company look professional and trying to show them that you're not wasting their money?
I just gave an interview to Entrepreneur Magazine about this because they want to know how to kind of live the high life when you're just starting out as an entrepreneur and impress your clientele. Go to a restaurant that you frequent a lot. Get to know the owner of that restaurant. Say, look, I'm coming in with a party of 10 or 12 people. Is there a prefix menu we can get? Are there discounts we can get? In that way, you're still you're treating your clients, you're taking them out, but you have behind the scenes